Hello, I'm Helen Thorn, comedian, podcaster and author. Welcome to Weight Loss 360 with Boots Online Doctor. We're here to support you as you make those little changes that can have a big difference. And this week, we're talking about obstacles and basically how we can be our worst enemy. Look out. We all know that that's the hardest bit, isn't it? Having those conversations with ourselves. Now, as always, I am joined by the fabulous Dr. Sam Pilley, who works for Boots Online Doctor and is also an empowerment coach and author, a yoga therapist and many things. Welcome back, Sam.
Hi Helen.
And as always, we've also got the lovely Ruth Taylor, who is a nutritionist and nurse. Welcome back, Ruth.
Hi, Helen. Hi, everyone.
Now, this is a really interesting topic, I think, because, the hardest decision is actually coming to a weight loss journey, isn't it? And we know that we are our worst enemies. We know that that little voice saying, you can't do it, or no, go on, just have the piece of cake, all that sort of thing. So what are we actually going to discuss in the podcast today, Ruth?
Yeah, we're going to think about some of the sort of common challenges that people come across on those long weight loss journeys. And it is really part and parcel of most weight loss journeys. Most people will have a few hiccups along the way. So we really want to talk about this and get it out there so that it's not something that people feel is just them, because it's really most people, in all fairness. So things like plateaus, weight loss plateaus, can really undermine people's confidence and almost put them back on the wrong path if they don't really understand what's going on and why it's going on. So we want to look at those, but also sabotage. So we can self-sabotage, other people can sabotage our efforts as well. So we want to just maybe touch on what might be going on there.
Here's a question for you. What would you expect? You both have supported so many people on their weight loss journey. What are some of the obstacles that come up, especially in this whole 360-degree approach?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I find quite often is that people just don't understand that that 360 approach to weight loss is not just about what they're eating, it's maybe how they're eating, and also all of the other factors that we're talking about through this series. I think it's really important to wise up, get some information. We have our amazing podcast. We also have our weight loss program, our 10-week weight loss program, and we run webinars as well. So there, I can guarantee that all of the information that we're sharing in those processes is evidence-based, so that's really worth thinking about. There are other very credible sources as well. It doesn't just have to be ourselves. Also, really take stock of what you're eating, because what I often find is people will crash their calories down, and this is why we want to step away from calories. And in the crashing of the calories, they perhaps carry on eating the same old foods. So they're still having foods which are perhaps higher in sugar or higher in carbohydrates or quite processed. And so effectively, they're not relearning. They're not changing their taste buds, and they're perhaps eating a lot less. They may actually be quite hungry in this process.
Yeah, exactly.
And also just then, when they are no longer focusing on being healthy, they've got to where they want to be, then suddenly they can just eat more of those. So what you'll find is perhaps some weight regain as well at that point. So that to me is a massive obstacle. So really challenging yourself to change the foods that you eat, learn to love some different foods.
Yeah. One of the big obstacles that we can face is not understanding or being aware of the blood sugar balance that we want to maintain over the day.
Yes.
Because we talk a lot about cravings. Oh, but I really need something sweet at this time, and I always have a snack at 11 o'clock. And okay, maybe you have always had that. But what happens when you start adding protein to your breakfast? What happens when you have a good amount of protein at breakfast time, at lunchtime, at dinner time? And have those healthy fats, have some fibre and, great veggies on your plate. Do you have that same craving, really noticing? So I think part of an obstacle can be is not actually being in your body and more sort of in those habits.
Automatic.
Automatic behaviours.
This is what I always do.
Yeah, this is what I always do. I always have this chocolate biscuit with my coffee at 11. But are you doing that because you're hungry, and are you doing that because you need it? Or actually, if you change what you had for breakfast, would kind of 11 o'clock come and go, and you'd be like, oh, I normally I'm normally hungry, and normally my tummy's telling me I need something. But, those automatic behaviours can trip us up if we're not aware of them. So the food and mood diary can be really helpful in this situation, just to track how you're feeling, what you're eating, how they make you feel, the timings of what you're eating. And then we get into the subject of sugar and sugar addiction. So say it is a chocolate biscuit, and knowing that will spike our blood sugars, and then we'll have a little crash, and then we'll be hangry and irritable and not really able to focus very well, searching around for another snack an hour, 2 hours later. And so that sort of roller coaster continues because we've spiked our sugars, they've been cleared away, and we've gone a little bit low in our blood sugars just temporarily, and that's where we're feeling that craving coming in. So that can be an obstacle, I think. And we also talk about sugar being a substance that really gives us a bit of a dopamine hit. So our brain kind of loves sugar and loves the hit it gives us as well. So it's not just the blood sugars, it's also the sort of neurotransmitters that are...
the happy feeling, isn't it?
A real boost in mood, isn't
it?
Yeah. And it could also be associated for each of us personally with, childhood memories of, sweet things, meaning happy times. And there's so much tied up into that sweet craving. But it is something to look at and unpack, because this is a 360 journey. We're really looking at a transformation in our habits, even in our taste buds, so that we have less of a sweet tooth, perhaps, if that is a thing for us, and sometimes those topics can be a challenge to look at, and it's being gentle with yourself. And this doesn't have to happen overnight. It can take time to kind of unpack and see where we're going with it. And we talked about social pressures, for example, when you're working on a ward, and especially if you're a nurse on a ward, of course you're going to get gifts of chocolates and all sorts, and there will be these temptations, and that can be challenging to kind of say no to when it's sort of wafted under your face.
And you can look, it's so easy to be derailed, and I think that's the thing, is it's just to keep going. And that a slip up or whatever doesn't mean that's the end. Yeah. And it has to be long-term goals as well.
Totally. Don't let a slip up derail you. Come back to your why you're here, why you're on this journey, why you're walking this path, why it's important to you, and get your courage from that to carry on doing it. Because it is a courageous act that you're doing. To make a big change takes courage, takes effort, and it's really praiseworthy. You really deserve the praise for doing this, because it is something that a lot of people shy away from. A lot of people are find very challenging, but you're here, you want to understand more, you want to educate yourself, and you want to walk forwards with confidence.
I think this might be a good time to talk about plateaus, because I think that can be really disruptive, and it can be really demoralising when you're going, oh yes, I've lost a pound a week and I've stayed on track, but then you think, oh, I did the same as last week, but nothing's moving. How do we cope with that? How do we confront that?
Yeah, so weight loss plateau is a really normal part of a weight loss journey. We think that the research sort of suggests that this is something to do with your set point. So for each of us, we have a weight sort of that our body is almost programmed to want to be maintained at, because our body is there to really support us. So it thinks this is great, this is where you're meant to be. Our set point can be moved up and it can be moved down. So it's not just a given that you'll stay somewhere forever. So one of the things that we know is a plateau may well be something to do with your body just readjusting your set point down. So we have come to the conclusion that actually it's quite a positive stage, that actually it's your body readjusting. So I think also changing your mindset, instead of getting on the scales and feeling demoralised, actually just think, oh great, I'm recalibrating, things are steadying down here, and sometimes you have that little pause in your weight loss journey where your body is just catching up. And I think look at it that way, because I think that's a really helpful process to be thinking about. So a plateau can last for weeks and sometimes even months. And we have had people who've come in to our webinars who've really been struggling through that plateau phase, because emotionally it can play havoc with how you feel. And then they'll have the eureka moment when things start moving again. So I think it's persistence. You've just got to crack on, carry on, and not give up.
And I think in those weeks, set slightly different goals. It doesn't have to be the scales. And reward yourself for having good sleeps, reward yourself for, doing that extra 10-minute walk after your meal or things like that. And I think just shifting the goalposts a bit is a really good way of staying on track, because I think if your only focus is calories and the number on the scales, then it's not sustainable.
So maybe be thinking about how your energy feels, what your zest for life is, whether you've got that spring when you get out in the morning and you bounce out of bed.
And I think, looking at other parameters is a really good idea, as we've said. The other thing we can do is measure our waist, because sometimes our waist circumference is actually changing, even though the number on the scales is not. So waist circumference, even measuring around our upper arms or our thighs, and just noting down the changes, especially if we've started to bring in more activity, maybe, exercise or resistance training or something like this, the maybe we're building a bit of muscle, and that's changing what the number is reflecting back at us. We're actually shifting our body composition from that fat tissue to muscle tissue. Muscle tissue is a little bit more dense, it's a bit heavier, so the numbers on the scales are not become less and less helpful when we start to notice changes in our bodies, and like how we feel in our clothes. Actually, are our clothes feeling a bit looser, even though the scales are telling us nothing very helpful? Actually we're feeling really good. So let's use this as that empowering stage of, my body is just recalibrating to get to that new set point, which is a bit lower than the previous one.
So we mentioned sabotage at the beginning of the episode, and I think this is a really important thing we can talk about, because I think we are our worst enemies, and I want you guys to sort of expand on that, because you've had so much experience with all the clients and people you've worked with. How does it come up? Or it comes up very frequently, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's well recognised by anyone who has been on any kind of weight loss journey, that we can make up excuses in our heads and sabotage ourselves, and take, maybe, for example, we've got a load of weddings this summer or what have you, so we're taking lots of time off from our focused health journey, and that's really sabotaging our way, and we're kind of making excuses. It's a party, it's, and of course we want you to enjoy the party, but if it is, 6 weekends in a row over summer or something, we have to really think, okay, we have to be quite strict with ourselves that we are coming back to our plan, and make sure that we are not derailed totally, so it really is coming back to the mindset of what was our initial motivation, why are we doing this? Yes, we want to celebrate with our friends, we want to enjoy that holiday, of course, but we can make sensible swaps. We can not stand right next to the buffet table, we
Guilty.
we can swap our drinks, maybe we do drink this celebratory champagne, of course, but then maybe you switch to non-alcoholic drinks, and so you have a bit more control. That's the other thing. When we know when alcohol's involved, we can be more disinhibited and make choices that sabotage ourselves, and sometimes we know that. So I think it is taking stock. It's like stepping back and really prepare yourself. You're going to this party, but you're on this mission to achieve your goals. How are you going to step forwards, and how are you going to be strong in yourself? And maybe it is you eat something before you go to that party, and you have like a big veggie soup or something, so you you feel full. You're not going to really want a snack at that time, and you've prepared yourself. Let's also bear in mind that our sleep can impact cravings for carbs and sugars and those high energy foods. So we can sabotage ourselves by not focusing on getting that magic 7 to 9 hours. We have a whole episode on sleep, so do check it out. The other thing that we can kind of make excuses for ourselves, and we have this inner dialogue of like, but it was so and so's birthday, or it was so and so, I was tired, or what have you. And it's not just about our food and drink choices. It could be about our exercise choices, our movement, and we have to steel ourselves. I think it's sort of like developing that inner commitment to ourselves, and it comes with time.
There is absolutely no element of us criticising these behaviours at all.
No, we've all been there.
We're not judging you at all.
Because
I think some of what we know is based on our personal experience as well, and from working with people. But actually, it's we don't want you to judge yourselves either. We want you to just step back, really think about what's going on for you, because what is it that's you're doing, or what is going on in your head that's stopping you from moving forward, because the mind will create so many obstacles that will change our behaviour as well. So, you know, just be real with yourself, be honest with yourself, and just think about, you know, we almost have to make action plans, don't we?
And also seek help if they're you know, don't be afraid to speak up and ask for help, because sometimes we can't do it on our own, and it really helps to have a sounding board and someone to talk to. And it could be a trusted friend, or it could be through your GP and finding the right support that way. Because
I think that's a good point to make. Yeah.
On these journeys, we do end up having to face ourselves, you know, and sometimes that's really challenging, and that really brings up so much emotion and so much of our past and our history, and it's different for all of us. So sometimes we do need help, but we can do it. We can. It's
achievable.
It's achievable, and it's. You know, we can't emphasize this enough. It is step by step. No one is expecting this to be an overnight journey. This is really a journey of being kind to yourself, understanding yourself more and more, and walking forwards in that.
Time now for a lovely question from our community. Now, this one I can identify. I could have written this question, actually. The community member says they always like something sweet after meals, and they're confused if it's a habit or more of a sugar addiction. And they've tried all the different things like drinking water, brushing teeth, eating protein, but he really needs some advice. I think we can all identify with this. We're programmed to have pudding, aren't we?
Totally. If it's like a childhood programming thing for a lot of us to have that sweet, just to finish off a meal. But okay, if we're, you know, well done. One, recognizing it's not a great thing if you're focusing on your health and, you know, watching what you're consuming. So, and you've also tried loads of things, which is great. So well done for not giving up. So when we have that sugary sweetness, we get a lovely reward of dopamine, and our brain is really happy for a short period. And that is pretty addictive for us, you know, having that. And it's probably triggered by, I've had my main meal, and, you know, for years and years and years, I've always had something sweet afterwards. So that pathway is really well established. So we can do something about it and be. The first thing is you're really conscious of it. Okay, so there are alternatives that we can use to give ourselves a similar feeling, but not in a way that's going to derail our efforts, and not in a way that's, you know, every dinner time. You know, once in a while, of course, pudding is great. But if it's every main meal, then obviously we may run into problems when we are trying to focus on weight loss and a health journey. What do you think, Ruth?
Yeah, it does sound like it's maybe become quite a bit of a habit for this person. So I'd say really step back and maybe start really from the beginning of your meal and make sure that you're creating a plate that is going to feed your brain. So maybe put some of those healthy fats in and make sure it sounds like you're doing the protein really well, but I think people often miss those fats. And I think sometimes we get those cravings just because we're looking for something. You know, it is habit, it is pleasure, but also just balancing the food is really, your food on your plate is really important. So maybe pop in some avocado, some olive oil. You know, are you eating enough of those healthy, oily fish? What can you add to your plate that's going to bring that element to it? That would be a really great place to start. We know that for dopamine, that actually eating enough protein-rich foods can really help in terms of creating the neurotransmitters that feed our brain as well. So really focus on making sure you are getting a really good palm-sized portion of protein, and really think about, you know, what that looks like for you, because we're all different. We have slightly different needs, and make sure that perhaps your proteins that you eat across the week vary, because I think we're, again, a little bit habitual in what we eat. So bringing in different types of proteins can be really important. But also maybe things like just delaying that moment. So yes, you know, just take a little walk around the block after your dinner, you know, do something different, go and phone a friend, go and do go up and down the stairs a couple of times, because just putting in a sort of break can really make a difference and can move you away from that sort of in the moment craving. And then practice celebrating that you've done that, and give yourself the reward of success, because that will give that dopamine boost as well. When you eat your main meal, how are you eating? Are you sitting down? Are you consciously eating? Are you being mindful about your food? Or are you just wolfing it down because you're really hungry? There's, you know, I think actually eating slowly, chewing, savouring the food that you're eating and enjoying.
Put your fork and knife down.
Yeah.
Between eating, like that. just tiny micro changes are really important. Yeah.
You know, maybe your brain also needs time to catch up with the fact that you are taking on board this nourishing, delicious food. And if you're racing through, you might not have done that. So
it
you
takes
might
about
still have
20
some
minutes,
hunger.
doesn't it, for the sense of, because, and that's that window of like, all right, pudding, go.
Exactly. So if you took longer over your meal and savoured it, it might help.
Yeah, that sounds great advice. All right, I'm going to take that advice home. So as always, we like to finish with some top tips, some takeaways for the listener. I'll start with you, Ruth. What's your top tip for self-sabotage?
Okay, so I would say don't overthink a plateau. Don't sort of sit and let it overwhelm you. You know, just recognise that it's something that is very likely to happen and can take quite a long time to overcome. So just work your way through it and think about other criteria of success. So things that aren't weight driven. So your waist circumference, your energy, how well you're sleeping, whether your cravings are getting under control. And that, you know, use those as your parameters of, yes, we're rocking this, we're getting there.
Excellent. And Dr. Sam?
We talked about self-sabotage a lot this episode, and I think it can bring up a lot of our issues, some of our past hurts, that kind of thing, and the way we regard ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves. And I think sometimes we can work through those ourselves and talk to a friend and, you know, process some of the things that have gone on for us. Sometimes we need help. So not to be afraid of reaching out for help to process those things. And my third tip would be change your outlook, change the way that you look at the world. So a gratitude practice is so powerful for this. It really changes that inner world and outer world and the way that you regard yourself and the way you regard others, and gives you that self-esteem to walk forwards in confidence.
Brilliant. Thank you both. I think this has been, I'm sure, has left the listener lots to think about, but also encouraging them that they're not alone. Weight Loss 360 is a fresh air production with Boots Online Doctor. The producer is Ollie Seymour. We've got a bonus episode coming your way in a few days' time, all about taking a holiday from your weight loss journey. Can you? Should you? And how to plan for it and make it a pleasure rather than something that just throws you off the track. Thank you for listening. We're here to help you and make your weight loss journey healthy and long-lasting. So remember to follow Weight Loss 360 with Boots Online Doctor wherever you listen to your podcasts, so you never miss an episode. Make sure you check out Boots Online Doctor weight loss service for a whole load of other amazing advice and free resources, including a weekly live webinar where our experts can answer all your questions. The information shared here is evidence-based to help you achieve and maintain weight loss. However, if you have any health concerns or questions, please consult your GP before making any changes to your diet or lifestyle. Remember, every small change is a big step towards a healthier, happier you.